It's a big mistake to say business is bad, therefore I shouldn't buy stocks. That usually is the time to buy stocks. I think the worst mistake you can make in stocks is to buy or sell based on current headlines. I bought my first stock in the spring of 1942 when I was 11 years old, and at that point we were losing the War of the Pacific to the Japanese. It'd be kind of fun to go back and look at the headlines on the day I bought my first stock, because things were looking terrible until the Battle of Midway, and I bought in a few months before that. We're looking at where the business is going to be 10 years from now, because we're going to own it then. That's what counts. We don't try to profit from bubbles. We just try to avoid going broke from them. It's always possible when you get a big asset class that moves on price that after a while people forget about what the asset class represents and just get entranced with the fact that it went up a lot last week or last month, and that their neighbor, who's dumber than they are, had made a lot of money, and now their wife is telling them, why aren't you in gold or whatever it may be, or internet stocks that are moving, whether it's the internet boom, but you've had it all. You had tulip bulbs, 400 years ago. You had South Sea bubbles. So people will get delusionary from time to time. Bubbles will happen again. Now, what you want to try and do is contain the damage from them. You've got to put your emotions aside. The stock market literally in the 20th century went from 66 on the Dow to 11,400, and you'd say, how could anybody not have a good experience? But millions of people don't, because they get excited at the wrong time and they get depressed at the wrong time. You've got to give up the idea that you can decide when to buy stocks and when to sell stocks. The time to buy stocks is consistently over time. In 1954, the Dow was up 50%. And the country was in a recession. It was the best year I ever had in my life. So you don't want to not buy stocks just because business is lousy at the time. That may be the very best time to buy stocks. A decent productive asset is going to kill a non-productive asset over time. If you buy an ounce of gold today and you hold it 100 years, you can go to it every day and you can coo to it and you can caress it and you can fondle it, and 100 years from now, you'll have 1 ounce of gold and it won't have done anything for you in between. If you buy 100 acres of farmland, it will produce for you every year. You can use that money to buy more farmland. You can do it, all kinds of things. For 100 years, it'll produce things for you, and you still have 100 acres of farmland at the end of the 100 years. You could buy the Dow Jones Industrial Average for 66 at the start of 1900. Gold was then $20. At the end, it was 11,400, but you'd all gotten dividends for 100 years. It's always been a mistake to bet against America since 1776, and we take our body blows from time to time, but this country always comes through, and when we get united, get out of the way. We had a Great Depression, world wars, all kinds of things in between. It doesn't work perfectly every day, but it works over time. 20 years from now, 50 years from now, your kids and grandchildren are going to live far better than you live.